My wife's boss mocked me on stage, and she laughed with him. What they didn't know was, I owned the company they were standing in.
I thought going to my wife's promotion party was the right thing to do. She'd worked so hard, and I believed it was important to her. So I went. I wore a simple jacket, nothing flashy. The room was buzzing with unfamiliar faces, all laughing a little too loudly, everyone trying to look more important than the next person. I found my wife, but when I approached her, she barely gave me a glance. Her eyes darted around the room, making sure everyone saw her. She leaned in and whispered, "Just stand near the back, okay? Don't embarrass me." Her words stung, but I did as she asked, fading into the background like I always did. I didn't want to make a scene. A little while later, her boss stepped up to a microphone. The room erupted in applause. He started praising her, talking about her intelligence, her fierce ambition, and her incredible work ethic. I felt a small flicker of pride, even from the back of the room. That was the woman I'd supported for years. Then his tone shifted. He smiled this slick, knowing smile and said, "And she's achieved all this, despite being held back by a husband who just could unkeep up." A wave of laughter rolled through the crowd. It was like a physical blow. I looked at my wife, waiting, pleading with my eyes for her to step in, to defend me, to say something, but she didn't. She just stood there smiling. Then, to my horror, she laughed along with them. She took the microphone and added, "Oh, you have no idea. He's a simple man, you know, never went to college. He just doesn't understand my world." In that instant, something inside me just shattered. It was a quiet break, but I felt it completely. For all those years, I had been her silent partner. I handled everything at home, raised our kids, and made myself invisible so she could climb her corporate ladder, so she could shine. I was her foundation, the one who made sure the ground beneath her was always solid. And here's the thing I never told anyone, not even my closest friends. The company she was being celebrated in, the one she was so proud of, it was mine. It had been passed down through my family for generations. I never wanted the power or the title to define who I was. I wanted to be known for my character, not my bank account. But standing there, listening to her dismiss me, erase me from my own life, I realized a hard truth. Humility is only a virtue when there's mutual respect. Without it, you're just a doormat. I couldn't stay in the back any longer. I started walking toward the stage. The crowd parted, confused murmurs rippling through the room. I calmly took the microphone from her hand. Her smile faltered. "I'm the husband she's so ashamed of. I'm the simple, uneducated man you were all just laughing at." I let that sink in. Then I continued. "I'm also the man who owns this company, every building, every piece of machinery, every single paycheck you receive, including yours," I said, looking directly at her boss. The silence was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop. The laughter died on everyone's lips. My wife's face went completely pale, a mask of pure shock and horror. I didn't stick around for the fallout. I didn't want to hear the excuses or the panicked explanations. I just placed the microphone back on its stand and walked out the door. My exit was as quiet as my entrance, but this time everything was different. That night, my phone blew up. Endless calls and text messages from her. She cried, she begged, she apologized profusely. She blamed the stress, the pressure, the champagne. I didn't answer a single call or reply to a single message. I just turned my phone off. The next day, I went back to the house to pack my things. It was quiet, empty. As I was clearing out my side of the closet, I found a small wooden box tucked away in a drawer I never used. Inside were letters, love letters, but they weren't to me. They were from her boss. They described secret meetings, whispered promises, and detailed plans for a future that didn't include me. The affair wasn't a recent mistake. It had been going on for years. This whole time, she had been living a double life with the very man who had publicly mocked me. The betrayal was deeper than I could have imagined. I hired a lawyer and a private investigator. The truth unraveled quickly, and it was uglier than I thought. It wasn't just the affair. They had been stealing from the company, embezzling funds, confident in the belief that I was too simple and too disconnected to ever notice. She wasn't just unfaithful, she was a thief. And worse, she thought I was too weak, too stupid to ever catch on. I filed for divorce. There were no screaming matches, no dramatic confrontations. I didn't seek revenge. My silence was my answer. The moment she was served the papers, she panicked. She finally understood that I wasn't going to beg for her to come back. Her lover, the boss, vanished the second he heard the words legal consequences. His loyalty lasted only as long as there was no risk to himself. Her job, the one she had sacrificed her integrity for, disappeared when the board of directors learned about the fraud investigation. Suddenly, the same people who had laughed at me now avoided her gaze in the hallways. Her world crumbled. Months went by. My life became quieter, calmer, and so much healthier. I rebuilt my routines around my children and myself. I started going into the office, taking an active role in the company my family had built. I stopped playing small, stopped pretending to be less than I was just to make someone else feel comfortable. One evening, there was a knock on my door. It was her. She looked tired, older. The arrogant confidence she once wore was gone, replaced by a deep-seated fear. She said she knew she had made terrible mistakes. She didn't ask for love. She knew that was gone. She asked for forgiveness. But really, she was asking for security. I looked at her and felt not anger, but a sort of distant pity. I can forgive you, I told her honestly. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to give you access to my life again. I truly hope you find peace. And with that, I gently closed the door. Sometime later, I was at a charity event. Someone I'd just met asked me what had happened in my life to cause such a dramatic change. They saw a confidence in me that wasn't there before.